There is a common misconception that is prevalent, and it has only been prevalent because there's been a there's been a lack of understanding on this particular subject, and this subject is pertaining to devil. It's pertaining to the adversary, Satan, Lucifer. Quote. And this misconception is that he's a powerful person. Is that he's a powerful person, and he's not powerful. And one major verse that a lot of people attribute his so-called quote and unquote power to is Jude chapter 1 verse 9, where they reference the situation whereby the archangel Michael confronts him over the corpse of Moses, and then the Lord instructed angel Michael, not to speak against Satan. Now, a lot of people take this scripture out of context and interpret it to be Satan was a powerful person that angel Michael could not confront, or Satan is what being a rival to God, whereas Satan is not. He is not a rival of God. A lot of people have that definition of Satan, whereby there is God and then there is Satan, but it's part of the tricks of Satan. He doesn't have any power, so he has tricks. So one of the main tricks that he's using in this generation, and he has been using for a long time, is to trick people into believing that he has power, whereas he doesn't have power. In fact, there's a verse in Revelations that said that a time will come when people will be looking at Satan and be saying, "Is this you? Is this you? Is this you?" Like like glory will leave him completely. Men will now, that verse says that and people were saying, "Is this the man?" So he will have the appearance of a man. That's how stripped off of his celestial essence that he will be, compared to what we saw in Ezekiel and Isaiah. So to further clarify this particular misconception, it's right for us to just understand that Satan is not as powerful as we think he is. Now, speaking specifically on Jude chapter 1 verse 9, whereby we see the situation between the archangel Michael and against Lucifer, against the corpse of Moses. You see one thing in just basic psychology or basic reality: restraint is the highest form of authority. The restraint that God placed upon angel Michael, that he should not confront Satan, is not because Satan is powerful, but rather to show that, look, it's just like, for example, like a little child comes to me and start throwing darts at me, start throwing fists, start throwing punch. If I should engage in that child, they will call it agbaya. I'll be an agbaya. I'll bring myself down to his level. That was how that sin was. So the sin is not that particular conversation, that instruction that angel Michael shouldn't engage in Lucifer in a combat. It's not because Lucifer is powerful. It's not because Satan is powerful. But rather, like I said, restraint is one of the highest show of authority. And that's one thing that God allowed to happen there. And he said, "Tell him the Lord rebuked you." And that's something that is very interesting, because we see the book of Jude comes before Revelations. And if we see in Revelation, if you see the end of Satan, he said, "And Lucifer, the great dragon, was bound in chains." Like this same Satan in chains, him and his false prophets and everybody who will believe him. Celestial hymn will say, "Ìgbéni fún èṣù àti fúnṣẹ́ ọwọ́ rẹ̀, bàbá ti gégún fún, ọmọ ti gégún fún. Ìgbéni fún èṣù àti fúnṣẹ́ ọwọ́ rẹ̀, ìgbéni tó àwọn tó tẹ̀lé." They are doomed already. They are doomed already. So the misconception that Satan is this is a lie. It's a lie. And when you say this, if you say this, it's like, what are you saying? Oh, you don't speak against it. This devil is a powerless person. But he has tricks. He has tricks. You just need to fall for it. And that's his whole job. Hosea chapter 10 verse 10. I think the first lesson we read in today's Sunday service talks about, God was talking about the children of Israel. And he said something. He said, "When it fits my plan," Hosea chapter 10 verse 10, "when it fits my plan, I will attack them." Meaning, the same way God held angel Michael down against Satan, it was just because it did not fit his plan in that particular context. That was not the end Satan had to have. Remember, recall that even later on, after he's cast into the bottomless pit for 1,000 years, he will still come back again. So everything goes on to the divine plan. So that particular misconception in that scripture is like, oh, Satan, even in Jeremiah, could not talk against Satan. What? Have you forgotten the verse that said there was war in heaven, and this Satan, he shape-shifted into a three-headed dragon. So this confrontation that we see happen in Jude chapter 1 verse 9 is like part 2 of that confrontation. Imagine meeting somebody you fought before. Do you know the anger, the hostility that you have towards that person? That was what God had to tell in Jeremiah. Why? That was why God told in Jeremiah to show restraint. Because if he should have met Satan with that what Michael means is the strength of God. Michael, the strength of God. With that full strength, if he had met Satan, that would have been Satan's end. But Satan still had a role to tempt the world up until this very moment. So if Satan had died in that confrontation, right about after the death of Moses, imagine if Satan was killed or he was bound in chains from the time of Exodus. There won't be Satan now, and Satan has a role he's playing, whether he knows it or not. And it's actually in line with God's plan. That's what that verse says. When it fits my plan, Hosea 10:10, when it fits my plan, I will attack. And this is what for somebody, you've been seeing a lot of things happen. It's for a reason. It's for a reason. Some is to build perseverance, some is to build fruit, some is to build character and strength and faith. And you're looking, God, when will these attacks end? When will you give me victory? When will this warfare end? When will this persecution end? Hosea 10 verse 10 says, when it fits my plan. The question now is, what is that God's plan? For Satan, we already know his plan. It's in the Bible. And the funny thing about Satan is that God writes his whole plan and puts it in a book in the Bible. And yet Satan will still not defeat God. Your plan may not be in a Bible. Your plan may not be in a published book. God's plan for you may not be in a Bible or a published book. But one thing that I'm very sure of, God says, I know my ways for you. I know my plans for you. Thoughts of good and not of evil, to prosper you. That's something I should hold on to. And once again, just to clarify, that whole misconception that Satan is powerful, he is not. He is not powerful. He is not. Because all power belongs to Jesus.